Okay, just to segue a little bit off what Sam said, when you're doing the intelligence preparation of the battlefield, through whatever method you're using, whatever situation you're using, and you're using the salute report format, size, activity, location, unit, time, equipment, what you're trying to do is provide information to the tactical guys, and this is where we're going with this whole presentation, to enable him to answer the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why. Okay, which is typically a mission statement that he gives to his subordinate units along with his higher commander's intent, so that everybody's coordinated and synchronized, in other words, on the same sheet of music, about what you're trying to accomplish in the end state you're trying to achieve tactically, or operationally in some cases. Okay, so when Sam's giving you the big arching overall picture, we need to know all this information. You're feeding it to guys like me and others who are going to take that information. At that point it's intelligence, because information is the raw product. I don't know if you covered this, and I apologize for being late. It was planes, trains, and small boats yesterday in Atlanta. You're trying to transition. When you get that raw information, by the time you get it from a guy like Sam, it's considered intelligence. It's the refined product, and you can operate off of it. Preferably it's actionable. It means you can do something with it, do something to somebody with the information that Sam gave you. Okay? One example of an overall picture that occurred recently where I live is we had a police chief there who was wonderful. Absolutely great guy. 35 years, same department, from patrolman to chief. Couldn't ask for a better guy. New guy comes on board after he retires. First thing he does is, we're going to encrypt communications. That's probably a reasonable thing, but the way they went about it was, nobody was consulted. It was simply announced, we've encrypted our radio communications. And the reason was, 2 words: officer safety. Then he drew a breath and said, but radio encryption has never been proven to improve officer safety. That's a sea change in philosophy of a police department. And it's, for most folks sitting here, it's a huge red flag of, we're about to change the way we do business, in the sense of, we're no longer quite as transparent as we thought we were. And that's one of those things you go, maybe I should start looking at some other things here. And to counter that, I would recommend Sparks 31's site, Dan Morgan 76, and Sam's site, Guerrilla America. So now we're going to transition from the big overall intel collection picture of salute and IPV and all of that, down to how we use this information that you've collected in some scenarios. And we're going to cover what was done in Iraq up till 2007. And the source document for this is John Robb's Brave New World. And if you haven't read that 3 times, once for entertainment, once to jot down an outline, and the 3rd time as lessons learned and where we need to go from here, and not just from the tactical standpoint, but from the resiliency standpoint, the interconnectedness standpoint, and so on. And his website, Resilient Communities and Global Guerrillas. Thank you. Global Guerrillas and Resilient Communities are 2 places you need to go. I think John was the first one to coin the term bazaar of violence, and it is an excellent term. And you should spend a lot of time over there reading about that, because we had it inflicted on us in a couple places. Iraq, Afghanistan, a few others. And it has to do with the interconnectedness, resiliency of the resistance movement. And when you see resistance observations, it's time to call it what it is. And that's what we're talking about here, is a resistance movement. Okay, pure and simple. And they the mainstream media, powers that be, each other in some cases, call it different things, but what we're really talking about here is a resistance movement. All right. So we're going to talk about the observations of that. And this is what Pete asked me to put together for this. Outreach and cooperation across traditional boundaries. And that's internal to us. Okay? We may not agree on the end state of this whole thing. Represented here today, we have at least 3 different end states represented. We have secessionists, we have restorationists, as in constitutional restorations, and we have balkanizers. Okay? Those are not mutually supportable end states. Okay? In fact, they're about as, with the exceptions possibly of some overlap between secessionists and balkanizers, they're exclusive end states. Doesn't mean you can't cooperate, doesn't mean you can't coordinate and synchronize your actions. And then when we've achieved a level that we can do whatever it is that our internal end state is, we can all agree through cooperation, mutual aid, whatever you want to call it, get along with each other. The second premise on this is that operational stuff, as in tactics, tactical side, operational side, and to some extent political side, is a definitional impossibility until somebody gets squared away and capable. Now that's not physically and tactically capable necessarily, but capable of integrating with another group across the board in such a way that they're supporting each other's actions and each other's words. Then they join with that group and they begin to build from there. In the counterinsurgency mode, you'll hear that called the oil spot theory. We're going to take this little village and then we're going to spread out this stability. Malaysia, I think, being the prime example of that. We're going to spread out from there. It's the same principle on this side of the house, except we're spreading the word and we're spreading the philosophy and we're spreading the capabilities across the board. And then get busy. A lot of people sit around and wring their hands and say, this can't be done, I'm not going to agree with so-and-so. Yeah, it can be done. And it needs to be done. But if we have to be smart about it, we have to choose good ground, both politically and physically. Okay? And good causes, and learn from one another's mistakes. Now, on the subject of causes, if you're waiting for the immaculate cause, you're going to die of old age. Please let us know where your stuff is, because we're going to use it. Because there is no immaculate cause. It's not going to happen. It's just simply not out there. You're going to be contending with the mainstream media's perception of it, the spin of it, what your neighbors think. Everybody knows what happened with the Zimmerman case. He's tried and hanged, and then when they bring it up, it's like they bring out the police report, they bring out all this other stuff, and suddenly it's like, oh, wow. But you never heard the, oh, wow. You never heard that he was acquitted. In fact, he was originally no true bill, okay, until other issues got involved coming out of D.C. In other words, he wasn't indicted. Released at the scene, and so on. You never heard any of that, but you always heard the other stuff that you heard from the media. And we'll talk about a couple more cases in here briefly along those lines. But understand the immaculate cause does not exist. And in fact, you may find a cause where you're going to be there supporting it, you want to support it, you're capable of supporting it. You may find yourself holding your nose and taking a shower after the whole thing, from an emotional and a mental standpoint. But it's going to be a cause worth supporting. And I'm being deliberately generic here because people are from all over. I don't know what the causes, the potential causes in Ohio, Wyoming, California, whatever. Okay? You're going to have to pick your cause and make your decision locally.